Um, my clock says 2 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and I will begin the December 18th, 2025 meeting of the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency Hearings Officer to order. I'm having trouble with my Zoom. Just give me 1 minute.
What's happening?
It's just, oh, there we go. Okay, I brought it back up. Okay, so I'm Marcia Birch, and I'll be your hearings officer today. The first action I'll take is on the approving the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Okay, seeing none, I will approve the agenda as it was posted. The next item is public interest comments for no action. Any member of the public who wishes to address the hearings officer on any item that is not listed as a public hearing item on the agenda may do so at this time. Public comments on any public hearing item will be taken at the time those agenda items are heard. The hearings officer is prohibited by law from taking immediate action on or discussing issues raised by the public that are not listed on the agenda. So, Jessica, it sounds like there are no members of the public in the room.
Correct. There are no members of the public in the room or online.
Okay, so we have consultants online. Let's just ask if anyone online has a public interest comment.
Okay, if any member of the public online or any of the consultants wish to make a public interest comment now, please raise your hand now by clicking on the raised hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There are no hands raised to comment.
All right, I will go ahead and close the public interest comments. Item 4 is the announcement of appeal rights. Any decision of the hearings officer is appealable to the TRPA governing board. The notice of appeal, which can be found on TRPA's website, and associated fees must be filed within 21 days of the hearings officer's decision. All right, so that brings us to our public hearing items. I will go to the agenda. Item 5A is the Gavigan Land Capability Challenge 5040 Sacramento Avenue and 50545 San Souci Terrace, Placer County, California. Assessors parcel numbers 097-112-005 and 097-112-006. TRPA file number LCAP 2025-0231. And this is Julie Roll's item.
Yes, hi, this is Julie Roll, Senior Planner at TRPA. So as Marcia said, this first project is a land capability challenge, and it's for a project area comprised of 2 adjacent parcels. So this challenge was reviewed by TRPA Soils consultant Phil Scholes on behalf of TRPA. And based on his evaluation, staff is recommending changing the land capability from classes 3 and 5 to classes 2, 4, and 6. And we have Phil joining the meeting, so I will let him take over and give us some more details about what he saw in his review.
Thank you, Julie. The subject area is mapped having TLAC soil types, and it was initially evaluated under Placer County under a site assessment that determined it was class 5 and class 3. The property owner requested a land capability challenge, and what we found was that the soils on site better resembled the Jorge or George soil series, and based on the slope classes that are associated with the Jorge series, we can come up with a class 2 for the uppermost part of the property that has steeper slopes, over 30%. There's about 3,000 square feet of that. The middle of the property was class 4, which has slopes 15 to 30%. And the lowest part, which is also sort of right next to San Souci Terrace, there was some class 6 there. So ultimately, changing from class 3 and 5 to a combination of 2, 4, and 6. Overall, it was not a complicated or unusual kind of land capability challenge. We've had similar results in the Homewood area where it was mapped with the Tallac series. And what we found were that the soils were deeper, had less limitations, and therefore it came out as either the Jorge series or in some cases an unnamed soil inclusion, but not in this particular case.
All right, thank you, Phil. So is there anyone who is here on behalf of the applicant who would like to say anything?
Does
No?
not appear so, no.
Okay, did we receive any comments?
No public comments were received.
Okay. I don't have any questions. I thought the staff report was clear and Phil's explanation was helpful. So why don't we go ahead and open it up for public comment?
Okay. If any member of the public wishes to comment on this item, please do so now by clicking on the raised hand button at the bottom of your screen, and I will call on you. There are no hands raised to comment on this item.
All right, thank you. I will close public comment and take action on this item. I will approve the land capability challenge as it was presented in the staff report. All right, that brings us to item 5B. This is the McKee Land Capability Challenge, 7708 North Lake Boulevard, Placer County, California. Assessor's parcel number 117-140-015. TRPA file number LCAP 2025-0296. And this is also Julie's item.
Yes, hi, Julie Roll again, and this is another land capability challenge. And this project was also reviewed by our soils consultant, Phil Scholes. Based on his review, staff recommends changing the land capability from class 5 to class 6. And there's also an area of class 1B, stream environment zone, and backshore that will be reduced as part of this challenge. So I will again turn it over to Phil for more details.
Thanks, Julie. This is a lakefront property in the Tahoe Vista area. It is mapped with the Jabu series, which is a very common soil type along the North Shore. What we found was that the soil conditions were that they were a lot sandier because of wind-blown sands, presumably over hundreds or thousands of years, have created a more sandy kind of condition there, whereas the Jabu soil is an old lake bed kind of soil, so Jabu soils tend to be more silty clay kind of conditions. And the land capability challenge, changed it from the class 1B and class 5 to class 6 with a smaller amount of 1B. What's sort of notable about the change or reduction in the class 1B, it's listed as beaches, and that's typically been sort of associated with just the active beaches where the sand is destabilized and there's really not much growing in it at all. And in a land capability verification, they had moved that beach line pretty far up into the lot because it was apparent that foot traffic was disturbing the vegetation and making it look a lot more sandy. When you dig down below the surface, you find out there's an awful lot of roots in there. And if not for the foot traffic, it would be more thoroughly vegetated. So if it is supporting plants and stuff like that, that's not considered to be, an appropriate designation of beach. And so in this case, it went to an unnamed inclusion that TRPA uses a triple X for. So the majority of the property comes out as a class 6 unnamed soil type and a small amount of beach just right parallel to the shoreline.
All right. Thank you, Phil. Julie, have we received any comments on this one?
No, we have not received any public comments.
Okay. And anyone from the applicant who would like to say a few words?
Hi, yeah, I am agent on behalf of the applicant. My name is Jaden. I'm with X Line and Company. Yeah, I am the homeowner's representative. So if you guys have any questions or concerns about the application, I'm happy to answer. So yeah, just let me know.
All right, thank you. I don't have any questions at the moment. And so let's go ahead and open this up for public comment.
Okay, any member of the public wishing to comment on this item, please do so now by clicking on the raised hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and I will call on you. There are no hands raised to comment on this item.
All right, thank you. Then I'll go ahead and close public comment. And I will take action on this item. I will approve the land capability challenge as it was presented in the staff report. And that concludes our action items for today. Yes, Bill.
This just informally, we had someone join us that
Oh.
was the architect working with the first land capability challenge.
Okay.
Would you mind just sort of reiterating the finding for that so that he just hears what was the conclusion, because he missed the actual hearing itself.
All right. So that was item 5A.
Yes.
It was the first land capability challenge.
Right.
Yes, the land capability challenge was approved as it was presented in the staff report.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. And thank you to Phil and Julie. I know Marshall isn't here right now, but I hear a lot of land capability challenges. And I really appreciate the level of detail in the staff reports. It simplifies this process a lot, that, coming in and not having a lot of questions because you are so thorough. So thank you.
Well, good. I hope you folks have a nice holiday season.
Yeah, you too. All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Happy holidays.
You
Happy
too.
holidays.